Good evening. I'm Acting District Secretary Nicole Gonzalez. It is Tuesday, January 6th, 2015, and this is a regular meeting of the Dublin Standard Mountain Services District Board of Directors. Presiding this evening is President Ed Duarte.
Call the meeting to order. Would you join me in the flag salute?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Director Von Peter Leopold. Here. Director Benson.
Here.
Director Halkin.
Here.
Vice President Howard.
Here.
And President Duarte.
Here. Well, first of all, I'd like to welcome everybody in the room to the year 2015 and really wish you all a happy new year. Personally, I was thinking about that this morning because I remember we were at a New Year's Eve party when they called it Y2K when the year 2000 ran around and we thought, came around and we thought that the computers were all going to crash. Where did those 15 years go? Okay, special announcements, activities. Nothing tonight. Public comment. At this time, if there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak on any subject of interest that is within our jurisdiction and not included on tonight's agenda, step forward. I see no public persons in the audience, so we'll go on to reports.
Yes, President Duarte and members of the board, I'm going to be very brief because I have nothing for the event calendar today. I'm spending a quiet time on the holidays, took some time off, and there was no correspondence to it from the board since your last board.
Well then, item 7, approval of the minutes. I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the minutes from the last regular meeting.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from the last board meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion unanimously carries. Consent calendar, items 8A and B. Discussion, concerns?
Move approval of items 8A and B. I'll second.
Move to approve the consent calendar items 8A and 8B. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Board minute business, item 9A.
Yes, President Duarte and members of the board, you recognize this as a long-standing start off item during the drought. It's basically an opportunity for the board and the public to address the board on the elements associated with the drought management program that we have in place. A few facts for you, of course, that we had some nice rain over the holidays, which was good to see. I was joking with my daughter who flew in, and she flew in on a day of the week, on a Tuesday, it started raining on a Wednesday, and it rained until the Friday that she left. And it hasn't rained since, so I told her the governor should pay for Southwest flights not to have to coordinate. But, you know, despite every drop of rain is a good drop, so that was great. But we just get some such beautiful reservoir levels in this area, still precipitously low, and the first official snow survey of the season, which happened last week, showed that the snowpack was significantly better than in 2014, but still only 50% normal. So the storms are receiving like warm storm, cold storms for the snowpack. So although it was very nice to see the rain come from the sky, I don't think we're out of the drought yet. I don't think the series of storms that we had throughout the season.
Other comments? That's our directions, we continue some policies that we've been. Item 9B. That is to consider an appeal by Richard Mao of staff denial of a waiver of enforcement action related to violation of water use limitations.
President Martin, members of the board, I'd like to invite Steve Wright to come to the podium and speak on this particular item. Steve handled this particular case with our customer, and I think he can fill in on the details of this particular case.
Good evening, President Board, members of the board. As Dan pointed out, review of our staff denial of a waiver for non-residents. The facts of this one are on September 26, 2014. Customer service contacted the customer to discuss a violation of our ordinance for irrigation. At the time, they had been irrigating around noonish every other day. It was explained to the customer that September, we irrigate 1 day a week, and it was supposed to be between the evening hours. Fast forward a little bit to November 10th, 2014. Customer service representative was out in the field, happened to pass by the residence, noted that the gutters had algae or moss or whatever. It kind of looked like the area had been overwatered. Called in customer service and reported it. Customer service reviewed the records and noted that from the time when they were initially contacted in September to November 10th, that they continued to irrigate every other day. And so on that day, they issued a $250 violation. A few days later, on November 25th, a waiver request was submitted to the district. As I reviewed the records, if you look in the packet, there's a snapshot from what we could view of Aquahawk indicating that they had been irrigating every other day. If you look at the graph, it shows that shortly after November 10th, when the initial waiver was received, or initial fine was received, that irrigation shut down. However, if you also note on the little line on the bottom, it shows what the precipitation was doing at the time. It happened to be raining when the irrigation shut down. As I had been reviewing it, the irrigation came back on when the rain stopped. During the time actual of review, it had been raining again, which was the time Bert was talking about, and the irrigation had been shut down. However, based on past history, when the rain stopped, the irrigation came back on, so I had assumed that the same thing would happen again. At that time, on December 12th, the waiver was formally denied. On December 17th, an appeal was officially submitted to the district, and we'll go over the justification of the appeal. They stated that they're using less than 4480 gallons per week, and we feel that other folks in the neighborhood are still irrigating equal to the dam. We didn't verify what other folks are doing in the neighborhood. Looking at just one particular case. Customers are here, so unless you have any questions for me.
Any questions for Steve? At this time, Mr. Mao, would you like to come up and speak?
First, we have never received any warning from water district at all before we received the citation. The second thing, we actually, I think the state or city government asked for 25% below the average use, right? I reviewed the bill that we will have for the year we lived there, it's 2011. After that, we went into some of them. I compared the amount of water we used by the time and the same amount in 2014. We used only about 55%. as the 2011. We are way below the average use. We save more than 40% of the water. And the third thing, actually, I'm sure after I received the citation, I go out, look at almost every day. I see most of the people in the neighborhood, they are just regular water the landscaping without any problem. So I believe then I feel that we are discriminated. As I know, I heard that my tenant has the same problem. So he's also minority. And so that's why, I just feel that, we already reached the requirement by the government. We save more than 40% of the water.
Anything else?
Okay, that's it.
Yeah, any more comments?
I think that's all.
Thank you. And board?
And one more thing, actually, my home is a previous model home. The landscaping is worth about 50,000. So we try to save living use water to landscape and to keep them alive. If they are died, then it's 50,000. It's not enough.
Did you know that if you had watered at night, you wouldn't be here right now?
Say again?
If you had watered at night, you wouldn't have been in violation of the law. And you wouldn't be here.
I did is in the evening. We water is in the night, almost 12 o'clock.
Apparently they saw water on during the day.
I think it's long before at the beginning, actually the water is set by the previous tenant. It's during the day. Then after that, when we get into the house, then we will return it to midnight. Actually, you can check the record, you will see.
If you changed to do it at night, why did you choose not to follow the days that it could be on?
What do you mean?
Well, during this period of time, we went from 2 days a week to 1 day a week to no days a week, along with having to do it at night. What, did you not know about that, or why did you not do that? The
reason we just try to follow the rule is to save more than 25%. So actually we save on 40s, I think it's 40, we save about 46% of the water compared to our previous use. So as I say that I have to keep the landscaping alive, that's more than 50,000 value there. So I try to save, the way you save is save our living use water. We did not go above the government requirement. Right?
I believe your wife is my right. Could you come up to the podium, please?
Earlier, someone was mentioning about you can see the water that you face. I am not too sure if that is exactly what you see, because our home is in the middle of the three previous model home. And part of our water sprinkler is kind of like in between our home and the next door home. Sometimes in the past, because I think the builder connected together, it might be somebody else's following the water, and then you see.
That's okay. Even though there's a problem, But the thing is, I did see it when we get into the house. I did see it. They do it during the I think it's in the morning something. Then I addressed to the midnight by myself.
Is there a reason why you feel you didn't receive the warning?
There was no one warning me. I don't. Can they prove that they sent me any warning?
We have our records show that you received.
Oh, where?
It was a verbal warning when customer service contacted them on the
So you have
September 26th.
the record shows that you called me and warned me?
I spoke to you. I called you up and I said, you're watering every day or every other day at this time, and you said to me, am I supposed to let my lawn die? Is that what you're telling me? And I said, no. I'm telling you that these are the days and the times that you can water.
Is it
You
the-
said, excuse me, I'd like to finish. And you said to me, am I supposed to let my lawn die? Is that what you're telling me? And I said, no. That was our conversation. I did speak to you. I did explain that it was a warning.
You did speak to me?
Pardon me?
When did you speak to me?
I'd have to go back. I think they have the dates.
No, you
It's
can
all on
find
the
out
computer. And I
the
wrote,
date.
pardon me?
You can find out the date. You asked me not to use water?
I
September
explained
26th.
I explained the limitations of the irrigation.
Then did you ask me to shut down all the water?
No, I explained the limitations, the dates and the time.
Yeah. So in anyhow, I did change to midnight, right?
I don't have the records in front of me. I don't have any of this memorized. I do remember our phone conversation.
I don't remember. I had a phone
Yes, I
call.
spoke to you.
However, I did to adjust the water to midnight.
I don't have the records in front of me.
Even that was BS.
Yeah, I did adjust the water to midnight. I don't have any memory. I talked to anyone in the water district.
Any other comments?
But the most important fact is I did save more than 46%. I did water the things in the midnight. You can check.
Okay, thank you. Steve, I have one question for you. On the comment in the report about noting algae in the curb and the gutter, is that conclusive that it would have come from their yard or could it have come from another yard?
Well, I didn't personally look at it. The field service rep was out there. It was coming from the gutter, the sidewalk out in front of the house. So we need to believe that it is coming from that particular property. It's supposed to run down the sidewalk. I don't know if it's hilly. I honestly don't even know, what the house looks like. I never drove by personally.
Sounds like we need to sit somebody in the neighborhood go and see about the other neighbors.
Well,
Have any of the other neighbors been cited? I guess not.
not that I'm aware of. I don't have each place that's been cited or talked to memorized. I can say the street name does not sound familiar to me. I wasn't everybody in the area was getting talked to.
So I also have a quick question. Is there a reason why we don't send a formal warning letter? Just curious. So we did get a hold of the person on the phone.
Yeah. At the time, like towards the end of September, we were focusing on the folks that, for the most part, by September, most people had already kind of got in line with what we had asked them to do. So it was down to 20 or 30 people that customer service would call a week.
If I could answer that question, when you set up the ordinance, you provided that the warning would be information from the order because of going in May, we had no idea about how severe the drought was going to be and how quickly we needed to respond. So the warning was a warning. Staff is used.
But we did contact them, so,
Yeah, customer service takes notes anytime you talk to a customer.
yes.
Any other questions or comments?
Well, the other thing is that it's 3 times a week, and it was only supposed to be once a week. That's my concern.
Well, the problem is he obviously thought that if he kept within 4,480 gallons a week, he was still okay. even though after he spoke to our customer service folks, he did change tonight, he just didn't change to the twice a week. I don't remember where we were at that point, but probably twice a week. And he didn't do that because he believed he had stayed within the 4,400. Unfortunately, that's not the whole law. The rest of it does have to do with how many days a week you can irrigate.
Actually, I have only 31 the consumption. And in 2011, we had 58. And till 2014, we have only 31. So way below the average.
That wasn't the whole law.
Yeah, we still have.
That was only one part of the law.
So here's all I have to say. Rich, especially customers who come before us, that takes some gumption. So I tend to try to find a way to show some deference. And also verbal warnings can be a little squishy. I know we have very good notes. I know you have good notes. And a good memory. I'll offer this because the purpose of the program is to save water, not to collect or anything lower fines. I'll make a motion that we grant the waiver with the following provision: that this waiver granting suffices as a written warning, and that any violation henceforth we've been warned. And right now, if I understand correctly, we are at 0 tons a day for water. Is that correct? Through what?
Through the end of March.
Through the end of March. And my sprinklers are turned off completely. We expect all of our customers' sprinklers to be turned off completely as well. So, just to summarize, grant the waiver. This is also effectively a written warning on this topic, and feel free to fine if you get more violations on this one.
I also have a comment. Recycle.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded to grant the waiver this one time.
I have a discussion. We also need to make sure that he knows that recycled water is available if you need to pick it up. You can water your lawn with free recycled water.
How can we find the recycling water?
It's over at our treatment plant. So you're happy.
You mean I need to use the
containers
to carry the recycling water?
Several people have done it.
Buckets, 5-gallon buckets.
I do it with my house.
I have a 55-gallon drum.
Yeah. So if you do have a lot of landscape that you're trying to preserve, at least it gives it an option. And especially during this time when we have to turn off the water.
Okay. So you give us some information with the location.
Absolutely.
Sounds good.
Yeah, Dan will give, staff will give you, or Steve.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Those opposed? Opposed. Motion
Okay,
carries
just make
4-4.
sure you clearly understand, there's no irrigating now. No matter how much interior water you use, there's no exterior irrigating at all until the end of March, right?
We have a lot of information available about the recycled water. We've given away almost 2 million gallons of recycled water. So there's,
Yeah, you don't even have to
and
pay.
it doesn't cost you anything.
Then how come I see it in the common area, the allocation system, they have recycling water. How come city doesn't bring the recycling water to everywhere?
We've been working on it.
As a new development.
If I can, the state of California doesn't presently allow us to deliver recycled water on pipes to residents. It's only for irrigation and commercial accounts. That's a state law.
Another one of those silly laws.
Can't do it for residents.
Because,
But you can pick it up. It's great. It's a great program. And it's free.
Thank you.
That's it?
That's it.
So, are we going to receive a formal letter for this meeting?
What I would like to do, I'd like to send you an email, and I think we have your email address. I'll send you the information about our residential recycled water fill station, and I'll also send you a copy of the ordinance so that you've got all the rules and regulations there that you can read through, at your leisure. So that way you'll have all of the information going forward.
No, I mean for tonight's meeting's decision.
The
minutes will not be
prepared.
There's a form we follow up with. I'll send it to you.
Okay, sounds good.
And
Thank you.
information on recycled water. we have any of that before they can go, or?
We have somebody right here, so I want to say,
Yeah.
It's actually on our website too, so.
Thank you for coming.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
And if you have any questions, please feel free to call our customer service and they will help.
All right, that's good. Great. Have a good evening.
Next item on the agenda, C.
Good evening, President Warden, members of the board. On May 5, the board adopted a mid-cycle budget adjustment in the CIP budget to include a water supply contingency plan, CIP, in the amount of $50,000. The purpose of the project is to prepare a long-term alternative water supply plan so that the district may be able to be independent of the state water project. This past summer, as you know, the drought demonstrated the unreliability of the district's current water supply and the urgency of the study. As a result, staff expanded the scope of the study so that it's more comprehensive and more in-depth than originally planned. This study also will supplement the upcoming urban water management plan and the ongoing Tri-Valley water policy roundtable discussions. Accordingly, a budget increase is needed to cover the increased scope of work. The district issued a request for proposal to reaffirm the scope of project, and we received 2 proposals. One's from RSC, and they were selected because of their proposed approach to the study and their experience. They recently completed a study for Alameda County Water District. The scope of the work that the district requested is similar to but more extensive than what Alameda County Water District has done. And the proposed cost of the report is comparable to ACWD, and obviously there's a lot of increases as well. The scope of work of the budget are included in the package. Staff is requesting that the board approve an increase of $75,000 to the project that covers the cost of the study. And that time, no fund limit increase is required, and this project will be funded through the water expansion fund. Once the board approves this increase, the staff will issue a task order for RFC, and then staff will issue that task order.
Good. Questions? Comments?
There's no greater in the history of the world, so.
Yeah.
Budget adjustment.
Second it.
Been moved and seconded to approve the adjustments to the capital improvement budget for the 2-year fiscal years ending 2014 and 2015, to increase the project budget for water supply contingency plan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6 carries. Item 9D.
Mr. President, members of the board, I can either address this from where I'm sitting, or I can walk over to the podium, whatever your pleasure is.
You can sit down.
Now, you notice that we have a 15-minute, I was going to say 15-hour time limit on this, but I did promise the general manager I would try to do this in 5 minutes. That's partly why I'm doing it, because I can talk faster than anybody knows. The Brown Act can be very easy. There were no changes. The Public Records Act, there were a bunch of changes that don't really pertain much to us. They have to do with the new exemptions that have been added or tweaked a little bit. Most of them have to do with mental health disorders and reports, things like that. Person determined to be a mentally abnormal sex offender. I mean, we don't have records like that as a general rule. The one thing that we come closest to is voter affidavits and registrations. And there's just a change from a voter registration card to an affidavit of registration. So that's an important change that we'll all, I'm sure, keep in mind. There's a new one that relates to Section 147 of the Labor Code. It has to do with chemical disclosures, but I don't think that would apply to us. And that takes care of the Public Records Act. The Political Reform Act, there were a couple of changes of some significance. One of them has to do with campaign funds, and it requires more notification for notification of candidates when subcontractors or sub-agents hired by a campaign spend money. So this is to avoid the sort of thing that you read about in the newspapers where somebody associated with somebody does, the campaign does something. I don't think that's going to be an issue for anybody in this room. The two other amendments to the Political Reform Act, the first one is AB 1666. It doubles the restitution fines for bribery. We all know what that is. And it prohibits campaign funds from being used to pay those increased restitution fines. So that should be just something you file away. The other bill is AB 1692. It prohibits campaign funds being used to pay for fines that arise from misuse of campaign funds, put to personal rather than governmental purposes. So, Government Code Section 1090, that's the big conflict one that has the draconian results. What they've done with that is they've added aiding and abetting. So if somebody who aids and abets somebody who is subject to 1090, the regulations can also, it is also prohibited and can be fined or potentially jailed for helping somebody who's covered by 1090 from proceeding. That's one hopefully everybody's staying away from because that's particularly ugly. The biggest area of change was our friends up in Sacramento at the FDPC. One of the things that happened is actually a good thing. The statute that deals with gifts has an inflator built into it, so the gift limit is now $460 instead of $440, which means that it's $460 that's prohibited. Taking more than $460 is what's prohibited from a source. And it means that that's also, it prohibits you from acting on something. Campaign limits have been increased, but I don't know that there's any issue with regard to that. The biggest changes have to do with material effect on real property. The FBPC characterized them as non-substantive, but Nancy actually found something that was circulating in the League of Cities. It's an opinion by the Belmont City Attorney as to what these changes in the regulations do. The bottom line is, if your property is within, a property that you own is within 500 feet of a project, you're now presumed to have material, it's presumed to have a material impact. But it provides that the FPPC, of course, could write you an advice letter and say, oh, no, it's fine for you to act on that. So we're going to have to watch that closely. The other thing that they did is they said if it's more than 500 feet, well, it's not automatically no interest now. It's, well, we have to figure out whether a person, whether a reasonably prudent person would think that had a material effect. There's a great line in here I want to read to you. This is the attorney from the city of Belmont. The only thing obvious about these rules is that they're not easy to understand or apply. So we're going to have to pay more attention to that. And it may be that you want me to write something up on this subject so we can sort of keep it straight. But so he also says, public officials must therefore be proactive in spotting potential financial conflicts of interest and timely seeking help as needed to determine if a conflict exists. Well, okay, there you have it. Not terribly different, but now we have a rule, 500 feet, it's automatically out. What I think this is going to do is require a lot of hand-wringing and thinking carefully about these things. And ultimately, if you have a project that's within 500 feet of three of you, you're going to have to, there's a rule of necessity that will draw lots to figure out who gets unconflicted so that business as usual can take place. And I guess that's in the public interest, but I don't know. Anyway, onward and upward.
So does staff keep a little map with the circles on
Hands where we live. Yeah.
I was only half joking.
There's a special blade.
It's an overlay, only available with a special password. So, only in California, that's right.
Thank you, Carl, for that
Yeah, and
enlightening summary.
eventually, we may be bringing the 2012 Conflict of Interest Code back to you for approval, because the FEPC has been suggesting, even though we sent it to them before we brought it to you the first time, now they wanted some changes, and they want us to create explanations for their changes. We said, no, you should do it. So, but that's another story. It has nothing to do with changes and updates in the law.
So as is typical practice, do our friends in Sacramento exempt themselves from all these new rules?
Yeah, these are local ones.
So are you-
But of course.
Are you going to make an attempt at condensing this to a little memo that we can have?
Yeah, I will work on that. I didn't want to presume, I should prepare that now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments or questions? Say no.
Carl, I have a question on the rule. So we have the Western Dublin extension of recycled water, and this obviously gets close to some of their residents. How does that affect that, the decision making is okay with that?
It has to do with the decision making. So that, I mean, if we're talking about the projects that we approved last year, no harm, no foul, because the rule didn't take effect until January 1st.
The 500
Going
feet.
forward, what's that?
The 500 feet.
Yeah, the 500 feet rule was the old 500 foot rule, which was not great, but it was actually, I was talking about this with Bob Mann, and he said, oh yeah, Aqua Legal Affairs Committee wrote that rule. That wasn't good enough for the FEPC. Anyway.
So just to be clear though, any new pipelines will have to do a little checking.
We'll have to go through this process. And, you know, this.
That overlay would not be a bad idea.
Yeah.
I said that, but we know, we
Yeah.
check those. That's how we stumbled, I remember the cell phone site basically.
Yeah, and the other thing is, this is not just board members, this is anybody, I think, who's in a position to, you know, make or participate in making. It'll just make more work.
Questions?
Just don't do anything. Don't go to a party, don't join a club, don't take money.
Fire.
Thanks for the discussion.
Yeah.
Okay, item 9E.
Yes, President Duarte and members of the board, it's just when you thought it was safe to go back to the water, we're going to start doing strategic planning. We do this on a sort of an every other year cycle in even of the years, like 2014 was. We looked at what we call the work plan, which is really the staff level things that we want to accomplish. Your role in the work plan, of course, is to see what the last year. In odd number years, we looked.
That's the term.
There.
And it does.
It will disappear, but it'll come back.
Yeah, and you've got to clean it up.
Any limit?
No, it's gonna just go up.
Anyways, in odd number years, we look at the strategic plan at a higher level. We look at the strategic statement, vision statement, and goals, and it gives an opportunity for newly elected board members that will be coming on board to participate in some high-level policy for the district. So we're going to be starting that process off, and what we're asking you to do today is really by motion, just accept the process and schedule. We'll be kicking this off in a more serious way at the first board meeting in February. So why an update now? I've kind of gone through this. The last update was in 2013. We made some tweaks to the mission statement, the vision statement, the core values. You know, we're going to look at those again. We may want to make some tweaks to those again. But they've served the district well by and large. I think this year what we're going to really be focusing on are the goals. And keep in mind, we're looking 5 years down the field, 5 or 6 years down the road. And there have been a number of new issues that have come up since the last couple of years. You know, tribal utility coordination and integration study has been completed. We're making some progress implementing that. Of course, the drought and the resulting concern with regard to the water supply reliability. growing focus on less traditional water supplies. We just approved a budget adjustment to do a study for that, going forward. The economy seems to be recovering, so before there was less of an emphasis on development, we may want to take a look at a little bit more focus on development as the economy moves forward. Of course, we've gone through the senior management retirement process and recruitment, and recycled water service has really taken off. I mean, we're moving into Western Dublin, and Pleasanton is on board with things. There's talk about Pleasanton and Livermore hooking up and making a global system to talk about. So there's a lot of things going on. We'd like to do this. We'd like to get through the strategic plan update reasonably in advance of the serious preparation of the budget. And we think the resources, based on your goals and things, we can make those as the budget for your consideration. You won't actually approve the strategic plan until probably about the time of the budget, so maybe it takes a while to dot the i's and cross all the t's. We want to start it off now for another reason. It looks like looking ahead the village workload is going to be a little bit on the one side for the next 4 to 6 weeks, so this is a good opportunity to have these high-level policy discussions. So again, in terms of the hierarchy of strategic plan, the board's responsibility and purview is the mission statement down to the goals. We'll have our ideas and suggestions, but really that's the policy and that's where we decide. The work plan, how we go about achieving those goals, is really up to the staff to go about. Well, we need your support, we need your endorsement, most importantly, we need the budget resources to go forward. And then, of course, once the plan is in place, we have a process where the managers, we gradually push all these goals and these work plan items down into the organization as part of annual performance goals. This was an issue, and I took the slide up from last time, because I think it's important. It might be rather intuitive right now, but the strategic plan is neither a promise by the board to fund anything, nor is it a commitment by staff to accomplish. It's a plan, it's a guiding document. You can actually make these decisions in real time going forward, looking at the situation as it exists at that time. This is a roadmap. It doesn't mean that you get 100 miles into a 400-mile trip and take a side trip or something. Hope to have a streamlined approach this time. Last time you made a few tweaks, will give you an opportunity. I'm not anticipating wholesale changes in the mission, vision, and values, although I think you're going to roll up your sleeves with regard to the goals. I think times are changing in that regard. So the schedule. We're asking you to endorse the process and the schedule, which is really in your agenda packet as summarized here. That's at this meeting. I'm going to reach out to you individually, asking you for some high-level thoughts, just so we can start framing some of the issues. We'll start doing that this month. And then really what I'm hoping to have is a mission, vision, values review by the senior management team, present that to the board at your meeting in February, and hopefully we can get through that in fairly short order. And then the real work starts, which is identifying the goals, followed by the work plan. So we'll hopefully have most of February, March, and probably dovetail into April a little bit, and that'll sort of dovetail into the budget preparation at that time, with the idea of adopting the strategic plan about the same time as the budget, like May and early June. So that's what we're asking you to do, is really by motion just endorse those process and schedule. But what I want to do is look ahead a little bit to February for you, mission, vision, and values, and I want to pass a document along to you, which is two-sided mission, the current mission, vision, values, so that's sometimes real fast, just to get you thinking about it. So, it's a pretty quick read, it'll give you enough for you a cup of coffee in the next couple of weeks to look at that and have a discussion on the 3rd of February. This is just what that was. So, that's about where we are, and unless you have any questions about the previous slide, which was this is really the meat of what we're doing today, is the schedule and the process. That's really what I would have in discussion. I'll make sure the discussion comes today. If the process doesn't work, if the schedule doesn't work, if you want an extra step, or you think you can streamline it, now really time to talk about it.
Which does it look reasonable to me too.
Yeah.
Basically baked by mid-April, so
Yeah.
fit into the budget purposes.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember one year we had a little rush where we're trying to
polish it.
I remember polishing season. I remember one year we got a little jam trying to get baked enough to do the budget. This was one of the time. That's good.
I think we're in good shape. Plus, we have a returning full board. Congratulations again to the employees. I have a full board coming back.
back and mounted the length of distribution values last time, so I think unless you think things have changed significantly, let's give you.
I'll make a motion to accept the process as presented.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded to approve the this 5-year strategic plan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Board member items.
I wish me luck. My wife is going to be out of town for 3 nights, starting tomorrow night. I'm so with the people.
We see the bat light go up.
Yeah, so if you hear screams from Padre Way, somebody come to my face, please.
Keep them off camera.
Or it's like the Ransom Red Chief, where they find me tied up in the front room. Somebody check me once a day.
I just noted, I didn't think I'd have to do this time of year, but I had to put the pool covers back.
Oh, God.
And the water's 48 degrees, and yet it's evaporating. I don't know how
So,
underneath.
so how difficult was it with the pool cover on?
In 48-degree water?
Not easy.
Did it require lots of staff up and other people and you know,
I
you have some
didn't-
expertise you can lend to some people?
I had no grandchildren around to help. I didn't have to get in.
You didn't plan that well.
But yeah, that's amazing. Well, it's painful. You gotta do it. Other than that,
I don't have anything new, although I do have a request. We're getting pressured quite a bit at the council level to talk about things we don't want to talk about. And I need to better understand at what point do we issue the will serve letter?
Well, that's a good question. We can, between Laura and I, we can brief you on that.
Okay.
Actually, later on your own, or we can schedule a presentation on the capital.
I think it'd be good if the whole board knew it, because no matter where you go, you get pounded with, why aren't you guys doing something about it? They seriously, the town's becoming divided. It finally happened in Dublin, it's turning into Pleasanton, and you have a group that want to stop growth, period. No more rooftops.
The simple answer is the will serve letters, there's actually 2 versions of those that are issued different times, but the will serve letters are really the final step in the process. The real policy level decisions get made at the time the subdivisions are approved, with the EIRs, with the reliance on the urban water management plans, with the water supply analyses. Those all set the policy stage for it. The will serve letters really are just kind of the final check on it. The time for people to get involved in those kind of discussions, if they feel passionate, is early on when the subdivisions are being approved.
Well,
once the subdivision is approved, frankly, it's in the district. We have
most of us,
we have a legal right to get legal obligations.
most of us have been answering, I'm sure that way, that the shovels they see turning now were approved probably 18 months ago, if not longer. But we need to understand that better, because we're constantly getting questioned about it, when those things happen, and at what point.
We'll schedule something.
Thank you.
Next time is just a little short.
Good.
Yeah.
Ron?
Just want to wish everybody a happy new year. And also, I love the articles from the AFA for all our efforts. So that was exciting, and otherwise.
I have no further comments here. So at this time, the board will be going into closed session for closed session item A, conference with local negotiators pursuant to government code section 549, 5, 7, and 6.
The attendees are as stated on the agenda. This is one of those special ones where you have to identify who's attending.
Okay.
So the agenda did that. Now we
the acceptance of from that too.
Mr. Brown is happy now.
Actually, they're accepted for the entire product.
What's that?
I said the Elandris accepted for the entire product, right?
Yes, they are.
Nice.
They have their own sort of act.
They have their own Brown Act, right?
Public Records Act has a different meaning.
Tell me, if the gift level is $460, why are we pulling our hair out over dinner?
That's gonna be my big thing.
Well, they add up. They add up. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll only get 2 a year. What's that, maybe $200?
Yeah, well, you want to be on the right side of that
I
line.
know,
I can just get back to him and say, look, we need to find another date. Tell us what.
Yeah, and you know, people don't know what's going on right now.
Yeah, it's a good, it's a good.
I think it might be a good thing.
Bud and I will be able to go to the auto next spring, cap out, place his vehicles every year. Look at it. Actually, he looks at it. He's got some target to it, he thinks we need to stay.
And I start talking about people. Except for the one day I was singing, somebody said, hey. Oh, that's scary.
Oh my goodness.
I'll get zapped. Have a good night.
Nice.